It's 11 to wow, and like we are 20. Again, a Saturday morning, we are making the most of our weekend. So that's great. A quick story of how I met Nrupaja, who will, give us this session on composting today. So I was visiting a village called Lobi. Lobi is a village in the tribal belt of Maharashtra, and Nrupaja was doing her fellowship with the organization called BIOF, and and that's how we met. And the common friend sort of told that she was interested in composting, I was interested in composting, but that was not the true story. I was an enthusiast in composting, and Nrupaja was the guru of composting. And that's how we met. And then I was a failed composter. I did composting in cardboard, and then it rotted, and then I threw it away, and then I tried in some buckets, and it was a mess. And my mother had strictly told me, "Tum kuch bhi karogi, composting nahi karogi." So yeah. And then I met Nrupaja, and then she was like, it's important you do the right way. And I was like, of course I'm doing it the right way. What did you think? And that's when she gave me a session on composting, and it was, trust me, it was a one-on-one session, but it was like like a revelation for me. She walked me through every bits of it, what can go wrong and all of that. And with those learnings, then I moved ahead, and I can safely say that I'm doing Thik-Thak composting now. A lot of you might be knowing already. So that's how me and Nrupaja met. And a little more about Nrupaja. So she is someone, who has been pursuing her passion towards environment, love for environment in multiple ways. She did participate in an action research proposal where about waste management in urban cities. And she received a grant to work for the same at Maastricht University. So yeah, that's a little about Nrupaja. And now the structure of the session, let me quickly walk you all through it. Nrupaja will first be presenting and walking us through the details of how composting, why composting, and a lot of other things around it. Once she is done, I might pitch in with my little experience, and once she is done presenting, we will do a question answer session. Most of us here are from the group Eco Sarovar of the society based out of Hyderabad, Aparna Sarovar. But we have two people more. One is Suvarna, who is an ex-Aparna Sarovar resident. She came through Rituja. So welcome, Suvarna, to our session. And the second one is my friend's mom, Neetu auntie. So she stays in Bathinda, but I think through my friend she came to know about it, and she was like, I want to join it. I said, why not? Eco Sarovar is beyond Aparna Sarovar. So yeah, that's it. Over to you, Nrupaja.
Thanks a lot. And first of all, thank you, all of you, for being here on a Saturday morning to hear me talk about waste. So I'll start my presentation now. So let's get started. So yeah, my presentation is mostly about like green terraces, because in urban areas, those are the places that we have which can be greened, and maybe very few people are lucky to have other green spaces on the ground, or like bungalows or stuff in which they can have a garden. So that is why the title of the presentation is Green Terraces. And you don't need to know why it is the need of our cities, because all of you are here because you care about the environments that you live in, and also other places around your city which are being polluted because of the waste that we generate. So I'm sure that you know how much we need the green spaces in our city, not only for our well-being, but for the well-being of all the things around us. This is a picture of a sacred grove. So in Maharashtra, we call it Devrai. And I always show this picture at the beginning, because when we start creating a green space in the city, we always have so many questions of how often do I feed it, and how do I take care of it, and when should I repot, what is the schedule, what should I plant, and like lots of questions. But something for us to think about as urban green enthusiasts is, who takes care of these plants? Does anyone repot them? Does anyone add fertilizer to them? They are grown, especially in these sacred forests in which no one, that like there is very little human intervention. Some of the trees are growing 200 feet tall. Is anyone taking care of them, watering them, or I don't know, like adding nutrients, NPK, whatever fertilizers? No. So, and they're still growing. That is because the natural system takes care of the tree's needs. So the leaf litter that you see on the floor of the forest, that is the feeding mechanism for the plant. So a plant knows how to take care of itself, unlike a lot of us. It will drop its leaves, and that will eventually turn into a form that is makes nutrition available for the plant to grow. And that we have broken that cycle in cities. So what we see in cities is like paving blocks and different sorry what we see in cities is paving blocks where there is no place for the leaf litter to go back into the soil and to make the nutrition available for the plants to grow. Or like I said before, where if we are doing it in balconies or on terrace gardens, we don't have huge trees which will give us the nutrition for growing our small pots of like rose or tomatoes or whatever. So how do we do that in a city? And what you can do is you can create a similar system using nutrition from your biodegradable waste. So biodegradable waste, as the name suggests, is like anything that can be decomposed into its elemental form in nature. And that includes like different kinds of waste, which will include our kitchen waste or cuttings from the lawn or leaf litter, or all anything that is biodegradable comes under biodegradable waste, and all of that can be used to create a green roof for yourself. So what do we do with like the non-biodegradable waste? And this was a small experiment that we tried, in which we collected different wrappers and then shredded them and used them for filling our like stuffing pillow cushions and making pillows, and like they turned out really well. And then with the biodegradable waste, you can grow your own food. And so both your waste is like, all your waste is being put to good use. The reason for showing this slide in the beginning is, if you go through this entire presentation and you feel like, I can't do any of this, it's too difficult, or I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, then the least you can do is separate your waste into biodegradable and non-biodegradable when it goes outside your house, so that someone can use it, right? If you can't use it to do these things, I don't expect you to sit and shred plastic. That is not the point of putting this slide. It is there to show you that what we think of as waste is actually useful if we take care of it properly. So you can use your kitchen waste, if it is mixed, if everything is mixed together, if the plastic and the kitchen waste, if you put your kitchen waste in a plastic bag, tie it up and throw it out, no one can use it. But if it is segregated properly, then someone at least can make use of some part of it that is useful for them. So if you take nothing away from this presentation, take away this, that segregate your waste as it goes outside your house. Because otherwise, this is the scene that we see. This is from a picture from Uruli Kanchan in Pune. So that is a landfill site, almost 20 kilometers from the city. And Pune city has been sending their waste there for the past 20 years, like every day, sending 19,000 tons of waste. there. So you can imagine what it is for the people who live around that area and how awful it is. And instead of this, if we could have a picture that looks like this, then why not like do our small part for contributing to that. So this is a picture of my garden, taken sometime during the monsoon, and as you can see, like it is completely um, green and looks nothing like the picture before it, even though the main component is the same. Like the earlier picture also had a lot of waste, and a lot of waste also went into making this garden. So we bring in almost 8 to 10 tons of biodegradable waste every year, and that is what has created this uh, beautiful green terrace.
So for all who do not know, this is Nrupaja's house terrace.
Yeah,
That's there in the picture.
yeah. And yeah, just a few more pictures. So what we usually do is a present in the presentation when we used to have visits at home to show people, to like inform people about composting and everything. So what we used to do is have the presentation and then take them for like a walk through the terrace. But since you can't do that, I'm just sharing a couple more pictures. So yeah, welcome to our terrace. And I will, from here on, I will just give a brief idea of the structure of the presentation. Um, so first I'll tell you what we have done, and then share some models which are practical for you to do. So maybe you don't want to bring in, I mean, no one wants to bring in like tons of waste for their terrace garden, and we do it because it is our hobby, but you don't have to do that. So I'll share some more practical models which you can do like on a small scale, depending on the size of your family, the amount of waste that you generate, and all those things. And after that, show you a few pictures of the produce that we get from the terrace. So that's always a nice motivation to see all of those. So yeah, let's get started. This is how we started composting on our terrace garden. So we made small pits, and you can see that the pits are lined with tar at the bottom. That is to prevent leakage and like for waterproofing. I mean, so this is why this picture goes first, because there are a lot of like technical details and that go into terrace gardening specifically. Like the slope of your terrace has to be done well so that there's no water logging. And because anytime that there is water logging, like if the water stays on your terrace, then it is going to leak. And no one wants like leaking terraces. I mean, especially people, residents who live on the top floor, don't want the terrace leaking. I mean, no one wants it. So you have to take a lot of precautions, and that is why we don't recommend terrace gardening for societies in which like the terrace is maybe not privately owned or owned by someone who isn't exactly living underneath it. Firstly, because you don't know how, what precautions the builder took when he was building it. Maybe he had no idea that you plan to make a terrace garden on it, and he didn't like take the adequate measures required for that. So it's also a safety concern. And yeah, just to prevent like any structural damage if you are putting maybe waste and then the water is leaking or any of those. So this is just to give you an idea of what we have done and how we have achieved the results that you will see further on. But for you to do in like small terraces or small spaces or independent spaces, I have a lot of other models. So this is just to give you an overview. And you should pay attention to like the small pipes that you can see here in the pit, because those are very important for aeration. And as we will see further on, for composting, like aeration is very key. So it is important that the waste has a lot of air going through it, or like that is not completely blocked off or choked. So if you have maybe some societies, housing societies have pits for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like a weekly set of pits to put their waste in. And if you have such a pit which is not giving you good results, then maybe this is an addition or modification that you can make to improve the efficacy of the compost that happens in those pits. So you put in pipes from the side to give aeration, and then we also put in pipes at the bottom, and you'll see that the PVC pipes have holes in them. So I don't know if you can see my pointer, but yeah, these pipes have holes in them, not only for aeration but also to allow the excess water to drain off, because we don't want any water stopping anywhere, because then it is going to come right through your slab. So because water is always going to find a way, so the best way to like prevent waterlogging is to get it like into the like off your terrace. So drainage is always very important, and that's why we put like some brick bat at the bottom, so that all the excess moisture has some place to like flow and get out of the pit. And then we fill it with the biodegradable waste, like which is mostly in our case leaf litter and waste from the vegetable vendors, and that gets composted and we use it for our plants. So the word composting, I mean, we are very familiar with it, and none of us needs like a proper definition of it, but it is still important because I think it gives you perspective when you're actually doing things, and makes it easier and make sure that you don't make any mistakes which would result in like it smelling or worms or any of those unpleasant things. So it is basically the process of decomposing the waste that you have into a form that is more accessible for your plants. And the three main principles of composting are ATM, air, temperature, and moisture. It's very easy to remember. So first is aeration. It is important that no matter what kind of container you use for composting, that it's well aerated, because the microbes which do the actual work of breaking down, they need oxygen to survive. And if there isn't sufficient aeration, then you will have an anaerobic process. So a process in decomposition will still happen no matter what, but it will give off a stink. If it happens without proper aeration, it will start stinking. So it's always important that your waste is well aerated, especially if it is wet waste from the kitchen. So dry waste doesn't give that much of a foul odor, but wet waste has a lot of moisture and can easily start rotting instead of decomposing into the form that we want. The second is temperature. So during the composting process, the temperature will go up to 60 degrees and then cool down, and after that it becomes ready material for planting. So during these phases of like increasing temperature and decreasing, there are different microbes which will work in different stages of the composting process. And that is also like important to know, especially if you have small containers. So if you dump in too much waste at once, and then the temperature like of all that waste is going to reach 60 degrees, maybe your small saplings might not be able to handle that. So you want to that much heat, so you want to make sure that the compost is ready for the plants, and that it's cooled down sufficiently, and then put it in your plants. So but this will only happen if you're having like huge amounts of waste and dumping it all together. So that is another thing that we tell beginners, that just make sure your waste is well distributed, and then this is a problem that you don't even have to think about. The third thing is moisture. So moisture is very critical, because if you have too much moisture, it will block all the little holes, like, and then prevent oxygen and then kill off all the microbes which are doing the important work. So you don't want too much moisture, but also those microbes need a little bit of moisture to survive. So if it's completely dry, then the microbes will not be there, and then the decomposition process will take like really long time. So like not too much, not too little. What is the ideal moisture level? And an example that I like to give here is the moisture level of bhel, like bhel, pani puri, I mean not pani puri, but bhel, like chaat. if you know what I mean. And that is the ideal moisture level, because it's moist but it's not soggy, it's not like dripping wet, and that is how you should your compost should always be. Like if it's too wet, then you can do something to reduce the moisture level till it is just the consistency of bare. So maybe you can add something that absorbs the moisture, or do different techniques like that. We'll talk more about that later, but remember that the ideal moisture level should be like bare. And the best way that we find for maintaining all of these parameters like that, to make sure that the air, temperature, and moisture, all these elements are fully balanced, we advise a layering system in which you give alternate layers of wet and dry biodegradable waste. So leaf litter followed by kitchen waste, or like food waste from your kitchen, and then again followed by leaf litter. So alternate layers. So the first layer can be like leaf litter, and then followed by waste. Here it is waste from the vegetable vendor, but you don't have to, like, you probably won't have so much waste from one single source. It can be waste from your kitchen or something like that. And then on top of that, like between layers, you will have to add some microbial culture, because they are the ones who do the job of breaking it down. And what we use as microbial culture is cow dung slurry. So we get cow dung, mix it in 10 times water, and then add it. But nowadays you get a lot of like ready-made gardening microbial cultures in gardening stores, and I think you already had a session on bioenzymes. Maybe they talked a little about this, about all the little things, all the microscopic things which do the breakdown for you. So you add layer of dry waste, followed by wet waste, followed by cow dung slurry, and then continue that layering process. So now I'm just going to give you a brief, like quickly run through all the different types of waste that we use. We have lawn cuttings. Maybe if you have a lawn in the society which gets mowed regularly, you can put that in your compost pit as dry waste. Or like flowers, nirmalya we call it, so stuff from the puja can be added to the compost pit. Waste from the vegetable vendor, um, non-vegetarian waste that you might have in the, if like any of you eat non-vegetarian food, or this is food waste from like big events like marriage halls or something, have leftover food, then also bring in that for as food for our plants. And so all of those different types of waste then get composted in different models on our terrace. So we try to keep a variety of models so that you can adopt whatever suits your needs or your resources. You don't have to go out and buy new pots or buy new stuff. So that's why from here on you will see like the different things that we have used to make models for composting, and any of the resources that are available to you and seem feasible to you and suit your lifestyle, then you can adopt those. So this is a drum, a metal drum which has been cut in half, and we do the same like layering process in this, leave it for maybe a month, and then start planting something in it. Or you can also have like the whole drum without cutting it. So this is a banana plant in the whole drum. It's not been cut because banana needs like a higher it can digest a higher volume of waste, so it needs more food to grow. So the bigger drum is a better idea to put in more waste. Or if you don't have access to metal drums, so these we get from like the waste recycling place. The metal drums we got from like the waste recycling center in the city, and or the places where you get like secondhand stuff. But if you don't want that, you can also get like the plastic containers or drums like these, and then use them for planting something like bananas or papayas. So this is a better picture of that plastic container. And please make note of the number of holes in the container. So this is like a 200-liter volume drum, and it has at least 250 holes. So that is the rule of thumb of for the aeration that I mentioned before. So a lot of times we get calls from people who attended our session, and then they say like, yeah, I it's like smelling. I used the plastic container, like you said, and then we asked, did you make the holes? And they say, yeah, we made holes. Like, how many did you make? I made 4 holes. Like 4 holes are not going to give enough aeration for a 200-liter drum. So just like make sure that it is proportionate, and you need as much, like as many holes, the more the holes, like the better it is for your composting process, because it'll keep the air flowing properly. This is also another plastic crate model that we use, and this one has too many holes, so we put in a lining of a cloth, so that like or a gunny bag, so that it doesn't flow away. Like the ready material doesn't flow away, but still has some aeration available. And in this model, we have directly planted in the saplings. So this is not like you're not mixing everything together and dumping it in there, but you're doing the layering, keeping it for some time, and then after the compost is ready, like once the temperatures cool down a little bit, then you plant the saplings in it. This is also another plastic model that you can use. So we are using old buckets, like used buckets from painters, and like they get thrown out anyway, so we make holes in them and use them for planting smaller things, maybe like brinjal or tomato. So that is also something that you can have in your garden, and if you want, you can paint over them so that they look nicer and like more uniform. Yeah, and maybe if Prerna has something to add about her experience with plastic containers, she can add something.
Mm-mm. Okay. So I don't have pictures to really show, but I remember how I started composting was I think in something like a container like this. So this is basically a planter, usual planter, and then I sort of, you know, asked my father-in-law to do a lot of holes. So he used a drilling machine. I think Rama also asked how to do the holes. So I think we were just lucky with the drilling machine at home. And, we used like a lot of, so he made like, I think in this big pot, I remember I made him do somewhere about 50, 60 holes. And, I wanted it to be just right. And then I did not make any holes at the bottom at first, but eventually I did, and then I kept a plate inside it, and then I just did the layering, uh, and then yeah. So, and another experiment with the plastic containers was layering with soil. So the bio waste. So for the first layer of soil, I think about uh, I think 2 inches, and then 2 inches of bio waste, and then 2 inches of soil. And I think within a month, it was ready to grow plants. So yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's about like the plastic containers. And then if you don't have or don't want to buy plastic containers, then you can also use other stuff that is like just lying around the house, or that you get sometimes from other activities. So these are crates in which like the mangoes come. I don't know if you have a similar thing in Hyderabad, but like here, where in mango season, when we buy mangoes, they come in like these crates, because they're like 6 dozen mangoes in one crate, and then you can use those wooden crates, and we put like a sack or a we put the green shade net cloth around it to turn it into a container and then plant in it. So that is also another method, another container that you can use. Because it's a cloth, or if you use a gunny bag or a plastic material, then like the shade net material, then it already has a lot of holes, as you can see. So you don't really have to make holes with a drilling machine. Or another great way to make holes is to heat the barbecue skewers and then, or a knife, and then use it on your container, but that would like totally ruin your knife. So you want to then maybe be careful. So yeah, so if you don't want to make holes or don't have the right tools to make holes, then this is something that you can do. Use something that is already well aerated. This is another example of something of making container that is already well aerated. You can like get this jali maybe in hardware stores or other places around in your city, and all you do is like cut a rectangular piece of the dimensions that are suitable for your use, and then you make it into a round and place it anywhere you want. And sorry, just a sec. Yeah, so, and then you use that to make your layering system. And as you can see, this is also very well aerated. And if you have some like in your housing society, if you have places on the ground floor which have like a little strip of earth in which you are already planting something, then you can put these jallis in different places to like make layers of your waste. And whenever the best part about this model is, like, first of all, it's easy to make, it's affordable, cheap, and when the compost is ready, you don't have to transfer it like somewhere separately because of the holes, and because it is kept directly on the soil. The ready material directly goes to the soil. So if you just plant something next to it, then it's already getting fed. So we call this model like a green feeder, because it's like a feeder for the plant. And what we will usually do is plant something, some creeper like a pumpkin or some sort of gourd, bottle gourd, ridge gourd, or something like that next to it, so the plant can get its nutrition as and when the compost becomes ready. So this is the green feeder model. And you can also use, I think Prerna used gunny bags at some point. So if she wants to talk about that, then yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was, we were out of option. There was a lot of we were sort of we became too ambitious, and we were telling all the floor people to give their waste also, and I was like, we will do it. But then it came to a point where our the khamba that we were using stopped. I mean, it had no more space. So then we had this I think a rice sack kind of a bag, and then we put all that layering inside it. I thought it's going to rot and all, but then turned out it was again a nice container for composting. So that was just a like by chance kind of a thing that happened for us.
Yeah, but this is a great example, because you don't have to do like, even you don't even have to do any of the models that I have shown you. You can do like, you can experiment with what you have at hand, and just remember like the basic principles: air, temperature, moisture. As long as like you maintain the proper moisture levels and there is like good aeration, you shouldn't run into any problems. And those are the models which are most sustainable. So if you copy something that I told you and it doesn't exactly suit you, then you're going to give it up after a while, maybe 2-3 months, and then you're going to give it up. But if you want to like do this as a lifestyle choice and want to continue doing it for hopefully the rest of your life, then you want it to be sustainable and easy, and the best way to do that is work with things around you, experiment on your own. So I mean, that's a great example for using things around you and like adapting to whatever the situation is. This is also another like easy to use model. It's old solar trays. So the solar panels, once they get discarded, uh, the the 4-inch like tray that you can see in the picture, that's like what remains of it after all the important stuff is taken out of it, and then those usually just get discarded or thrown away. And we brought in some of those to make like a uh, lightweight kind of pit for people who didn't want to construct pits on their terrace, who didn't like maybe think the weight would be too much for their slab or for their garden or balcony. So this is another great way of making like small pits around the house, and you can move it as you want because it's extremely light. So you just empty it and then move it wherever you want if you're not happy with the place or whatever. So that is also a great model. And we planted tomatoes and colocasia leaves in this. So for the supports that you see there, those are made for the tomato plants, using just like bamboos and some fabricated stands that we had. So this is the model, and you can see like the tray is not more than 4 inches, and like this is bitter gourd growing in it, or here in this next picture you can see the colocasia leaves. So you don't need huge containers to have a huge garden. If you provide the right nutrition to your plants, then you can have this sort of yield in your garden even in like minimum space. So this is growing in 4 inches of soil. And I mean, we obviously can't eat so much, so we can also like share it with friends and family, and that's also a nice feeling, to share food with our neighbors or the people who bring us their waste, which is either like people around in this neighborhood, or even the vegetable vendors who give us their kitchen waste, or the juice wala who give us fruit peels, the anda burji wala, and all those people who give us their waste. Then we can share food with them because things grow so well from their waste. And if like, as you've seen before, all of the models were maybe not aesthetically pleasing, and if you have a balcony which is right next to your living room, you don't want ugly models in it, and you want something that also looks nice when you're just like sitting there and relaxing with your family. So this is one of the more aesthetic models. We used to have it on our terrace just as a sample to show to people who wanted an aesthetic model. We don't have it anymore, so I think Prerna has used it like um, quite a lot, so maybe she can elaborate on this.
Okay, so I think for those who are getting confused, Prerna is my alias. My name per se is Pragya. So just to clear the air.
Yeah, sorry, I knew her. I mean, I got introduced to her as Prerna, so it's stuck in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm to be blamed for that. I was in the process of changing my name or something sometime there. Anyways, so yeah. Now, this is something that we have been using for now about a year, and we did not have to make any holes because I think if you like, you can see there are already holes present, and since it's made out of terracotta, it has natural aeration, I guess, right, Nrupaja? Yeah, and then just we did layering by layering, and there's I think beach mein there's some space that absorbs the moisture and pushes it into the second one, and you sort of use them like individual entities. And yeah, it's worked quite well for us, and yeah, looks beautiful in our garden too.
Yeah, so if it's an aesthetic model that you want, then you can have something like this, or you can even buy pots which are made like these from, like, if you have some sort of like section in your city in which there are a lot of potters, you can go and ask them if they would make like some earthen pots like these customized for you, or just you don't have to necessarily like buy it, pay a lot of money and buy it. You can just find some other ways to make this sort of earthen pot model which is stackable, so it like you can put one on top of the other. So it's also great if you don't have a lot of space, because they can go one on top of the other and hold like more waste than a single pot sitting in that space.
Yeah, so just to add to that, I think a lot of us might be using those earthen matkas in our kitchen for cool water. that's going to be for us, that's going to be our new experiment, because after a while they become not so user friendly, and then we tend to dump them. So if you can get a hole done from the nursery in that, or couple of holes done in that could also work very well for composting.
Yeah, yeah. Or if it's like hard to make a hole in an earthen pot, you can just put in something that likes more water. You can put in a plant that needs more water, and that's fine.
Will
Something
absorb.
mostly like flowering plants need slightly more moisture, and then make sure that you're like not just blindly watering it every day, just making sure that it's not overwatered. Like if it doesn't have holes, make sure you don't overwater.
So
um and
in scenarios like that, Rupaja, what I have done previously is I've added coconut husk.
yeah.
It has sort of absorbed a lot of
Yeah,
water.
yeah, yeah. So coco pit is a great resource for absorbing moisture, and nowadays you get it in all gardening stores. So if you go to a gardening store and tell them that I want coco pit, then they'll give you like a slab of coco pit which is dry, and then you can put a little bit of it in all your plants, because it not only absorbs moisture, but it also holds moisture. So if you forget to water for a couple of days, then and your plant is fine, then because not all plants need watering every day, but the microbial activity needs moisture to survive. So then the coco pit also holds enough moisture for the microbes to survive, so that your composting process is not disrupted. So coco pit is like a great resource. It's made by um, shredding and crushing the outer husk of the coconut basically, but it needs like an industrial shredder, so it's not something that you can do at home with a mixie. So it's just easy to buy it, and it's really cheap and affordable. So that brings us like to the last couple of models, and I'm sure all of you have like a couple of pots at least in your garden. So if none of the models which were shown earlier are suitable for you, then this method is something that you can use. We call it the corner system. So what we do is like remove a little bit of soil from one corner of the pot and put in a little bit of waste from the kitchen garden. Like, I mean, I don't know if you can see my video, but a little bit is like a handful, not more than that. And you put that in, and then you cover it up again with the soil. So you put it in one corner, and if you have 4 pots, then you, and each pot has like 4 sides, so top, bottom, and both sides. Then you put it like in 4 corners of one pot, then move on to the next pot, do the 4 corners. So by the time you get back to the first pot, it is the 17th day, and hopefully the waste has broken down a little bit. The important part here is make sure not to put too much waste, so that you don't like overburden the plant, because it will take a while for the microbial activity to um, thrive in that pot ecosystem. So you want to make sure that you take baby steps. So this is a great way, this corner system is a great way to start if you don't want to buy any new containers. You just want your existing plants to grow well, and for them to have like nice organic nutrients to give you the yield that you want. And it's also like a great way if you want to introduce your kids to this system. Like you don't really want them wasting time on doing all the composting or anything, but then you can tell them like, ha, you just had a banana, so go put your peel in the rose plant, or put your peel in the tomato plant. And then that's also a nice way for them to like slowly get introduced to this, of like being responsible for their own waste, and also for like gardening and maybe other interests that you would share with them. So that's also a nice and slow way to start this. So you don't have to like immediately start collecting leaf litter or anything. You can just maybe one day put in peels from like carrots or cucumber, and like just take it slowly, one step at a time, and not like start immediately with all of your waste, because it takes a while to for the microbial culture to get formed to decompose all your waste. So this is a nice, the corner system is a nice slow way to ease into the process of composting. And another really easy method is to use this bag. I don't know if you have it or are familiar with it, but we have these bags a lot, and they are like really cheap, maybe 80 to 100 rupees. It used to be, I think maybe it's a bit more now, but that's okay. And even though it's a nylon bag and it's plastic, because of the weaving, it's already well aerated. So this model was designed by someone in Mumbai for like the small apartment sizes in Mumbai, uh, where people would be able to compost even without having like plants or having a big balcony. And what you do is you put in like a full newspaper at the bottom of it to absorb excess moisture, and then you put in your kitchen waste, you put in your dry waste, and like the same layering process, and you can close the zip whenever it's not in use, so it can just like sit in your um, maybe like just outside your garden, or even like if you have a small balcony attached to the kitchen, it can sit there, and all your kitchen waste can go in it. And if the zip is closed, you don't have to like see the waste, or it doesn't attract flies or any of those things. It's also a great way for sharing your waste. So like Prerna was saying, she asked her neighbors to give the waste to her, and then maybe it's not always nice to have to handle it, or you don't have time to go every day, but you want to maybe go once a week or something. And this is a good way to store all your kitchen waste without it smelling. So because the bag is so well aerated, um, it's not ideal for composting because the material gets too dry, especially in weathers like Pune. So because it was designed for Mumbai, which has a more humid atmosphere, um, in Pune it doesn't work as well because it dries out too soon. But it's still great for like giving waste, maybe to other people. So we have a couple of people who are not able to compost themselves, people who are either maybe too old to do it, or don't have the time, too busy to do it. So they put their waste in this, and then once a week come and drop off this bag, and then we give them an empty bag in return, and that sort of exchange continues. So if you don't want to do it, but you have a friend who is composting or who has a bigger garden, then this is a nice way to hand over your waste to them in like a clean and nice way. And that all of these models were about the layering system. But if you want to like start fresh and you want to fill up all your pots and create like fill them up all together, then this is the proportion that we use. So it's around 70% of leaf litter, then the green waste is like kitchen waste, wet waste, and cocoa pits, like I mentioned, is a good addition. And you can see 5% of neem cake. So that is the residue left after neem oil is extracted from the fruits, like nimboni we call it. So after the oil is extracted, whatever remains, that is sold as neem cake. And it is great for boosting the immunity of your plants. So it's also a great way for organic pest control. If you add a little bit of that neem cake in all your plants, you can also add it to your existing plants if you find out where it's available, mostly in agriculture stores or something like that. So if you have a store in the city which sells seeds or other agriculture things, then you're most likely to get neem paint there. And that brings us to like other components of having a terrace garden. So it's not just the plants, but it is an entire ecosystem. And there are other residents also who share the terrace with us. So this is a sunbird who made a nest, and if you look really carefully, it's like feeding its chick. So you can also see the chick in the picture. And we have different birds like coming here in the terrace, and squirrels and everything. And the birds, like there's at least a couple of birds making nests in the terrace every season. So if you foster this ecosystem in your house, it is also going to be like rewarding, not just in terms of like plants and what you can get from it, but also from other residents who will join you. And you can also have like butterflies. This one is just like coming out of its cocoon, as you can see. A lot of bee activity, and bees can also help with pollination. So fostering bee activity will also boost the yield, not only like for you but also around you. So if you have any mango trees or tamarind trees in your vicinity, then their productivity will also increase if you're like harvesting from them in the society. So also, I mean, bees are a must have um, for any like garden, and it's important that we create a space for them in urban areas, because they are very sensitive to usage of chemicals. And nowadays, like I mean, we all are familiar with bees dying out or swarming in massive quantities, like large numbers, to like away from maybe the farmland areas because of the excessive use of chemicals. So if you have like a clean chemical free environment, then you will definitely attract more bees and create a space for them. So this is a beehive that they made. We haven't done like beekeeping in the traditional sense with a box, but we also always have like at least one beehive in the terrace at some point, and they just come and make it and then swarm away and then make another one in the next season. So this is a small beehive. So in addition to all the food and the fruits and vegetables that we get, we also have the benefit of having like fresh and organic honey from the terrace. And then just as the residents above the soil are important, the residents below the soil are equally important, if not more, because they are the ones who are doing the work, the actual work of composting. So when we say I am doing composting, that's actually a misnomer, because I'm not actually doing anything. They are the ones who are doing things, and we are just, it's our job just to facilitate them and give them the best environment so that they make the experience pleasant for us without like bad smell or worms coming out or that sort of thing. But if they are like in their own environment, if we make sure that that environment is properly maintained, then they won't come out or come into your house, just like we wouldn't go out when it's like, if we are comfortable in a house and outside is uncomfortable, like a lot of heat or something, then we're not necessarily going to go out. So that's the principle you have to keep in mind when you think about all the creatures in your soil, because they are doing the important work. And then another often neglected part of it is like the microscopic creatures, so the bacteria and the fungi, and these are even more important than all the earthworms and bugs in the soil, because like I said, they are doing the important work of breaking down the waste for us. So also the bacteria and fungi are important, and not all of them are harmful. Some of them are, oops, okay, is this from,
That's annotation, I think.
but I don't think it is from my thing, my
Okay.
screen, because it's from, I mean, I didn't move the mouse. But yeah, never mind. I mean, it doesn't interfere with the picture.
Yeah.
It's fine. So also make sure you pay attention to all of these things in your garden, and that will make it like a better system overall for everyone. And what we do with things that are not easily decomposed, so the larger pieces of wood that come in the waste that we bring or something like that, we use it for as fuel for cooking on these stoves, which are designed for efficiency and to be smokeless. And then the ash or charcoal that we get from it, depending on where we stop the process, we use that again in the garden. So it's like a complete cyclic process, just as it was meant to be in nature. So that's what you want to do. You want to try and think of every element and how you can connect it back, so there is no wastage. Like whatever the sticks and things that come in which cannot be decomposed, we use them as fuel. We cook meals on it a couple of times a week when it's possible, and then the ash or the charcoal goes back to the plants. And coal is a great deodorant. So if you already started composting and smelling a lot, then what you can do is like put a 1-inch layer of coal on it. Because of its porous structure, it absorbs the bad odor, and because of like the tiny microscopic holes in the structure of the coal, it also creates like a nice home for all the microbes to live in. So it will boost the microbial activity in your soil, and it also directly add carbon to your soil. So soil organic carbon is an important element for especially for plants which like fruit and vegetable bearing plants. So maybe not so much for flowering plants, but for fruits and vegetables, like soil organic carbon is also an important element. So if you can find a way to incorporate that in your garden as well, that would be really nice. And now we come to why do all of this. So what do you get from it? And I'm quickly going to run through the pictures of, I think we are almost up to our 1 hour. So I'm just quickly going to run through the picture of all the yield from our terrace. Bananas, gooseberries, amla, the small one, papayas, lady's finger, pumpkin. This is also pumpkin. So the story behind this is that it is come down from like our terrace on the 6th floor, and here like it went down all the way to the 3rd floor. And one day we got a call from like the office on the 3rd floor saying we have 3 pumpkins hanging in our balcony. And I mean, that is the power of nature, that it can do that even in a city, in like a concrete environment, and all we have to do is facilitate it. So this particular pumpkin, we didn't even plant it. It came like from the seed was probably already there in the waste that came from the vegetable vendor. So it grew in a different, like there was a different container to which we added the waste, and then the pumpkin just grew and we let it grow, and then it gave us almost 6 to 8 pumpkins of 2.5 kgs or 3 kgs each. So all the message I want to give here is it is that simple. You don't have to go out of your way. This is not something that is unachievable. It's like really easy if you just take the right steps to facilitate nature, and then nature will take care of things on its own. So this is the picture of the pumpkin that was hanging. And then rich gourd, pomegranate, red chilies. So if you notice, this is the red chili from the crate that I showed in like the second picture, which was the second model, which was the plastic crate like container. So this is that container, and then this is from the first picture of the metal drum, first model of the metal drum. So this is haldi, and just from these 2 containers we harvested almost 13 kgs of turmeric. So the volume of your containers doesn't really determine how much produce you can get. What determines that is what kind of nutrition you are providing your plant. You can also have other things like lemongrass. We call it mayalu. I don't know, it has different, it is called, I think, towards the more eastern sides around maybe West Bengal and stuff, people call it poi. I don't know if you have a different regional name for it. Then if your balcony doesn't have a lot of direct sunlight and you still want to grow stuff, then you can try leafy vegetables, because they don't require a lot of direct sunlight. They're okay with semi shade. But if you want like fruit bearing trees or vegetables, then you need to have at least maybe 6 to 7 hours of direct sunlight every day. So also take that into consideration when you choose your plants, or you can put them in like small plastic containers like this, or even in tiny baskets like this. So you can buy these bamboo baskets and just put in the seeds for leafy vegetables, and then they'll make nice microgreens if you eat more salads or that kind of stuff. Or you can also wait maybe 20-25 days and then use them as vegetables, as leafy vegetables. like we traditionally do. We also have drumstick, tomatoes, cauliflower. This is my mom in the picture. Lettuce, and this is another small and really easy model in which you can just like take any old container or things that we have lying around, or parcel containers or that sort of thing, and put in cocoa pith or a little bit of your ready compost, and then put in some wheat. So in 7 days you will have wheat grass growing like this, and you can use it in your diet to, like, because it's really nutritious and good for your health. So that is also something that you can do. Like if you don't have a lot of space, this is something you can do. Even just put it in the windowsill, and that should be enough to like give you in 7 days like wheat grass for your consumption. Then we also have bottle gourd coming in a large quantity. So this particular picture on the left, the one with the waste bin, we put it in because this is a scene like probably across every household in India, that there is a waste bucket sitting on the doorstep. The reason I put it up is because in our house the basket doesn't go out, it comes in. So this basket is from our neighbor, and she works in a bank, she's really busy, and she doesn't have the time or the space to compost her own waste, but she still wants to be responsible in its disposal. So what she does is like she sends every day her basket of waste to us, and then we put it in our garden. So that is also something, and then whenever she's free or like on Sunday or something, she'll come and she'll harvest the produce from our garden that she needs. So remember that it is that easy, that it is supposed to be an exchange. And I can see already that all of you have a great community, and I don't need to, I mean, I know this doesn't need to be a message for you because you seem to already know all of it, but like the part about like having a community. But it doesn't have to be like how much did I give and how much did I get, and it doesn't have to be like a commercial exchange. Just that you know, it is a community, and we can share things. Like she gives us her waste, and then she comes and takes the vegetables whenever she wants, and that is how you build this process. Like that is what makes it thrive. Like the garden that we have is not just because of us or all the efforts that we have taken, but also because of the support that we get from our community. So keep it simple. It doesn't have to be like a calculated economic model of profit and loss and all those things. So be creative with your waste, and this is our message for that: compost for the city and grow for yourself. Thank you very much.